Hey, pals, my friends, wonderful people tuning into this great program. My name's Kyle. I'm bringing you WP Roundtable episode 162 with my extra special guest today, Mr. Tanner Moushey. How you doing, buddy?
Hi. Hey, doing good. How you doing, Kyle?
I am fantastic. Finishing up this Monday on a high note by getting to talk with you and learn a little bit more about
Awesome.
your fun story. I've been excited about this.
Cool. Me too.
Sweet, sweet. Well, there's a lot to talk about. You, your business, iWitness design, your fun history, your amazing projects, all the coolness and funness and awesomeness and so forth. First, let's chat about our quick picks of the week. Mine is, hey, we're running a sale. I can promote anything I want to on this show. How about that? Sandhills Development, the company that employs me, is running the end of winter sale, and it's pretty fun right now. So 20% off, I believe, everything. And at this point, it's a lot of things. Restrict Content Pro, Affiliate WP, Easy Digital Downloads. You heard of those? How about Sugar Calendar? And even more besides. So go to any of those websites and we've got a sale running. And there was something else that I wanted to share, and then I forgot it. So do you have something to share, Tanner?
I do. Well, I will echo Sandhills Development is fantastic. We're going to talk about business and all that later, but a lot of my business has been built on top of Restrict Content Pro and Easy Digital Downloads, so definitely recommend those a bunch. My unique pick for this week is Beaver Builder. I've been pretty opposed to page builders for a very long time. Stumbled across Beaver Builder, and the guys over there give excellent support. And the code is really amazing and modular and all of that. So if you're looking for a page builder, looking to deal with complex layouts, or want something that can be extended to handle custom components and layouts for a client, Beaver Builder is awesome. And just this week, I purchased the Beaver Builder advanced add-ons module, which has some pretty sweet functionality too. So that's one of my most favorite recent tools that we've been using.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I have enjoyed using it too. But man, that's a good testimonial, man. That's gotta feel good. Just I can only imagine being able to hear someone like yourself endorsing a product like that. Like we won over Tanner. Like this is big. We didn't just get some beginner who's brand new to WordPress and needs a point-and-click solution, but we won over a diehard. We won over somebody who was opposed to page builders.
Someone who was hard to convince.
On the record. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Now you're on board, on the bandwagon.
I'm on board. That's right.
Well, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that and for that winning endorsement. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, because I'm looking at it right now, is this Wednesday at 3 p.m. My old buddy Brian Hogg and I are doing a webinar, a live free webinar, and we're going to be talking about marketing for WordPress plugins. That's a fun topic. We've done a couple webinars already in the past few months. We did a general Q&A, and then we did one about pricing WordPress plugins. This one's about marketing WordPress plugins. We've already got a bunch of RSVPs, a bunch of good questions coming in. You should read the questions. Go to crowdcast.com/whatever, or go to my Twitter. I've retweeted it. And RSVP to it, 3 p.m. Eastern time this Wednesday. It's going to be a fun discussion. We got some hard questions that came in, and I'm really excited about tackling them. So check that out.
That sounds amazing. I'll have to check that out. We actually stayed with Brian Hogg and a couple other guys at Pressnomics, I think, last year.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Brian's great. Yes. We're not too far away from each other, and we end up crossing paths quite often.
Nice.
All right. So at this point, let's start talking about you, Tanner. Let's dig into your story. I want to hear about the past. I want to set the stage for where you're at right now. So let's go back in time just a little bit before WordPress, before iWitness, before 10up, and rewind the gears a lot before even your career on the web. Talk about when young Tanner had a little ambition and a vision for the future of any kind, foggy or concrete. Tell us what that vision for your life and for your future was, and how you made your first steps to act on it.
Wow. All right. So step into the way back machine. As I'm 28 years old, that only gets us back like 10, 15 years.
Sure, sure. You can do this.
We can do this. That's right. My memory hasn't started to go that bad yet. Short-term memory is gone, but long-term memory, I can do some of that.
All right, good.
So it really all started back when I was in high school, and my best friend's dad started teaching me and a couple other kids to work with Microsoft Access.
Whoa.
Familiar with Microsoft Access?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Really vaguely. I taught college classes on it for a little while in a weird chapter of my life.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so I was homeschooled growing up.
So was I. Cool.
Yay! Homeschooler high five. Yes. Okay. So he started teaching us Microsoft Access, and really he was teaching us coding techniques, engineering, proper structure, database architecture, relational database, all this kind of stuff. He was using Microsoft Access to teach us this. And so we did this for at least 2 years using Microsoft Access, building some pretty complicated projects and that kind of thing. And that was, in a lot of ways, my first introduction to programming and databases in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked it a lot. I loved the coding. I was in Visual Basic all the time, creating new methods and stuff. I don't even remember what it's all called anymore, but actually building custom layouts with Microsoft Access, and it was pretty slick.
What was this setting about? Like you said, a friend's dad? Is this just like a personal thing?
Yeah. So we had, one of the things we did in homeschool was we had this like group a music program that a bunch of homeschool families from miles around would come to, and it was pretty big. And I was part of kind of the core team, and so we'd come back to my friend's house after music practice, and we'd have these like computer classes. And he did some stuff at a hospital where he did database management and that kind of thing. So he was very knowledgeable in this area. And so it was just, using that as an opportunity to kind of pass that knowledge off to us, really. So it was informal, no credits, nothing like that. Just kind of hey, this is something I know that I think you guys might be interested in learning. And we really dug into it.
Wow. I wonder what teenage me would have thought of Access databases at the time, and would I have enjoyed that? I don't know. I didn't fall in love head over heels in my 20s.
No, I think if you've been exposed to anything else, you're going to hate it. But since that was my first step into actually being able to design and write code and link databases, I love the aspect of thinking through the data architecture and how this table relates to that table. I don't know. It just clicked for me and I enjoyed it.
Wow.
I'm very engineering in the way my mind thinks. And I loved that I could build things with tools that were free, right? It doesn't cost any money to build a table. You just create a new table and you relate you create a primary key and you relate it. And I could build something in an afternoon that's really cool. Wow. Anyways, I love that. I love the digital aspect of being able to build something that was useful. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's kind of the precursor to my story. That was when I knew that I loved working with computer. Well, that's when I knew that I loved programming. I loved writing code. I liked doing design. I didn't find out till later that I was really actually not good at design. That's part of the tragic part of my story that we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
So we had those courses. I got my first laptop when I was 12, and I was doing, I was running the overhead projector at our church for the worship slides and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I migrated our church from overhead slides to PowerPoint, and so I was in PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff. I was a very Microsofty kid growing up, and so got out of high school, and I got my first real full-time job at a laser company that was local to us. So for about the next 4 or 5 years, I worked as a laser technician at this place. and enjoyed that. Like I said, I'm really kind of engineering in the way I think about things. And so I really enjoyed the process of figuring out, learning how these lasers worked and putting them together and assembling and all that kind of thing. While I was there, first day I go in and I start getting trained on how to build these things. And the guy sits me down, puts the components in front of me and slaps down a piece of paper right to my side and said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And we're going to record all this information on this paper. And so we're recording precise measurements and all this kind of thing and a piece of paper that travels with this laser. And then when it's all done, we put it in a file cabinet and that's it. So, we send out batches of like 30 or 40 lasers, and 1 or 2 might come back. And we find out, oh, there's an issue. We got to go to the file cabinet, pull them up. And,
I see where you're going.
Yeah. So you have all these files kind of spread out on the table, trying to see if there's any relation. Anyways, it was a mess. I mean, it wasn't a mess. It just wasn't very efficient. So I had experience with Microsoft Access, and I said, I can put together a system that does this, but then it's everything stored in a database, so we can actually run reports and figure out useful information from this. So I started doing that part-time. Part of the day I'd build lasers, part of the day I would put together the system. Got it all put together, and then everybody really liked it. Because we'd done a lot of really weird things with in our access class. Like one of the things we did was we built a Yahtzee game. So you can imagine what Yahtzee would be like in Microsoft Access. Like that's not really what it's for. We were just bored to do really weird things.
It seems like a perfect natural fit, though.
So I was able to build a system that made it more intuitive of what was actually supposed to be happening. Because, not only is this something that we're just putting down on paper, we can actually prompt for certain things and show messages if something looks like it's out of tolerance or that kind of a thing. So everybody really loved it and wanted me to extend it to the testing side of the shop, so that, not only do we have all the dimensions, but we can actually record how the laser performs before we send it off to the client. I finished up all of that about 4.5 years into my time there, and that project got finished up. There wasn't much I was doing there anymore, and I really started thinking about what was next. Do I now go and get my a degree in a science degree or something like that, so that I can move up in the chain and start actually designing lasers or that kind of thing? And at first, that's where I thought I was going to go. In true homeschooler fashion, I started doing some online courses and testing out of things and doing that kind of stuff. And it kind of hit me one day that I didn't want to do manufacturing. What I really enjoyed was the building of systems. I really like creating tools that people could use to do things. And I know that sounds very broad and generic, but I like solving problems with computers. And it became obvious that wasn't, I was not going to have a full-time job doing that in that particular company. So I got this idea that I wanted to go build websites. I had a little bit of experience helping manage my church's website. One of the guys there had set up a site in Joomla and had taught me how to manage it. And I kind of figured out how to set up a Joomla site and this kind of thing. So I had a little bit of experience setting up websites, but hadn't ever done any coding around it. So when I got this idea about moving on to working with websites, I started looking at what some of the potential options were. And I knew I didn't really want to do Joomla. I had a little bit of experience with that, and I just really didn't like anything about it. And I started listening to some podcasts from 5x5. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so like the big web show with Jeffrey Zeldman, and the Web Ahead with Jen Simmons, and a lot of these guys a lot of these people that are behind modern web. And I started listening to podcasts talking about responsive development and all this kind of stuff. This was back in 2012, and so I was really, what I was listening to was right on the curve, I guess, of where things were at the time. and really started digging into that. And they had it sounded like what they were recommending was Drupal. It sounded like Drupal was for the cool people and WordPress was kind of for the noobs. So, so I thought, okay, well, I'll give WordPress a try, and then I'll try.
I'm not one of the cool people. What?
Then I'll graduate to Drupal one day, right? Like I'll get my feet wet, and then I'll move on to the cooler thing.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not in Drupal. I got
You
it in
still
WordPress.
haven't graduated? It's been 6
No,
years, man.
I decided I didn't want to. I decided that WordPress people are cooler than Drupal people.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, so I discovered the error of my ways. No, so I started doing WordPress stuff. I live in a little town. We're about an hour and a half outside of Seattle, but the town that we live in is pretty small. There's not a lot of people looking for websites out here. So I started telling people that I'm starting my own business and this kind of thing. My boss at the laser company wanted me to stick around as long as I was able to. So I ended up getting the opportunity to transition out of there over like the next 6 months. Excuse me. And so I let everybody know I'm starting to build websites. Thought for a long time on what the name should be. Came up with iWitness Design because it's kind of cool and punny, and it's designy. And I thought I was going to do design. And I started taking lynda.com courses on Photoshop and started doing some WordPress tutorials and this kind of thing. And got my first couple of sites. And this is really funny. My first site came from a friend, and they wanted me to build this thing. And so I started designing it, and came up with actually a pretty good design. It took me a really, really long time. But came up with a cool kind of farmhouse style design, put it all together and gave it to them. And they said, they asked me, and they say, we're logged into the back end and we see these things called widgets. What are widgets? I said, I have no idea. I have no idea what a widget is. So I looked it up and I went, oh, that's how you build a sidebar. I get it. Okay. So then I threw a quick sidebar in their posts, but that's where I was. Like, I didn't know anything. I had started doing I'd gone through, I think the Chris Coyer beginner's guide to creating a WordPress theme or something like that. And I didn't have any idea what I was doing. Did another site or two, and wasn't really finding any work. And more than that, just ended up getting really frustrated because I was not able to find the answers that I was looking for to my questions. You know, how do you do such and such layout? Well, I got a few articles telling me to do tables and a few articles telling me to do this and a few articles telling me to do that. And I had no idea what was the right answer. So I got pretty frustrated, and my big turning point was, I was almost done. I was almost ready to throw in the towel. And I found out about the Seattle WordPress meetup group. Went down there and met a bunch of great people. I started interning with one of the organizers down there, and interned with him, it was just an unpaid internship through the summer. But it turned into a big project that we did over the course of the fall through December. And that was a really crazy project. We ended up building this in-store kiosk for a big, 50-inch TV or whatever, out of WordPress. So the idea was, you go in and you say, hey, I want to talk to a personal stylist, and you can scroll through and see their pins and this kind of thing, like kind of an app, I guess, is what it was, for a touch screen. So wow. that was my first real project with WordPress. And on that project, I learned PHP and I learned jQuery. I didn't really learn JavaScript at that point, just jQuery. And so I finished that up and learned a whole bunch of really crazy things. After that was done, I started looking again for some new clients because that had taken up all my time. And so this guy started sending me some projects. And about a month later, in the dev meetup, Jeremy Felt was coming to talk about Vagrant, varying vagrant vagrants. And I thought that was kind of cool. And so I started chatting with him on Twitter about it. And a couple days later, Jake pings me on Twitter and says, "Hey, I saw you were interested in VVV. If you're interested in VVV, you may be a good candidate for 10up." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we hopped on a call and he asked me some questions, and I did okay. And then he kind of got to his last question and he said, "So this is something I ask everybody, but I'm pretty sure, most people haven't done this before, but I'll just ask, and maybe you have." He says, "Have you ever worked with the rewrite API, to build custom endpoints and that kind of thing?" I said, "Oh yeah, I worked on a crazy project where I did all kinds of stuff like that." It's like, oh, okay. So I did a trial with them, and then that 10up was kind of my next part in the story. Worked with 10up for about 14 months. And I really enjoyed it. 10up was a great company to work for. I was working with some really amazing people, and working with 10up really gave me, the first couple months I learned a ton. And then like the next 8 to 10 months was really kind of a confirmation of processes and thinking and all this kind of thing. It really gave me my confidence in knowing, that what I was doing, the solutions that I was coming up with were the same solutions that the senior engineers were working on, and that kind of a thing. So I stayed with 10up for about a year. And then mentioned to Jake that I was feeling like I was ready to go back and do my own freelancing thing again, because I had some things I wanted to work on, and so I started transitioning out of 10up, and then went back to iWitness Design, and that was 3 or 4 years ago, and it's just kind of been steady growth since then.
Did you operate under that name before 10up?
Yeah. So iWitness Design was, I think I started telling this earlier. iWitness Design was the name that I came up with when I thought that I was going to do design work.
I was going to say, you mentioned the design thing, but
yes. So I thought it was a cool name, and then after 25 hours of Photoshop tutorials, I decided that I wasn't a very good designer. I really, really like design. One of the reasons I said I love what I was doing in Access, but I don't want to work in Access anymore, is because I really didn't like the limitations that Access put on you, and you didn't really have a lot of control over the way things looked and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I really, really value good design. I'm just really bad at custom design. But I love working with good designers and actually implementing their good design. I enjoy that a lot.
Sure.
So
sure.
I've thought about changing the name, but I feel like it's kind of, I don't know. It works. It works for now.
Sure.
And iWitness development doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah. Yeah, perhaps not. That's probably true. Did you think about trying to learn design better?
I've thought about it. And I might someday. It's kind of been a hobby, a side hobby, just, paying attention to different design principles. And when I do work with a designer, looking at how they do things. And so I've learned a lot over the process. I think what I've realized, though, is just the way that my mind works. I'm much better at solving problems. I think more concretely than abstractly. So like one of the things I love to do is I enjoy writing poetry, but I'm always very metered, and it's always rhymes, because I like the confines of that. So it doesn't really
it's
matter.
Hard to break that mold a little.
Yeah, I'm very, I guess I'm very, I don't know. I can think out of the box when I'm solving a problem, but you still have the confines of the problem. That's why design kind of freaks me out. There's not really, there are general principles and that kind of thing, but it's hard for me to approach something when it's not defined. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I get
yes,
that.
I thought really of learning more design, but I think that I'm just never going to be a great designer, which is why I haven't put a whole bunch of effort into it.
Man, maybe this is why I'm so underwhelmed with all the music that I write. I follow the rules too much. I can't break the rules. I look for the rules and the patterns and understand them and just like do that.
Right.
And it, once I learn it, it's easy, but breaking out of it, that's the hard part. That's what separates someone like me and a true artist. I guess.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. But if you're writing worship songs, you know, follow the rules. Stick to those three major chords and
Right.
throw a minor every now and then, and you're good to go.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right on. If the topic of like learning those things, design versus development, it's kind of been interesting to me,
Hmm.
just in like everyone's perception, uh, because some people like identify as one or the other
Yeah.
and uh, express like maybe a lack of proficiency with the other or an inability to learn it because that's not how
Mm-hmm.
they work. Like I'll hear some people say, like you know, I just can't do development. I'm not a developer.
Yeah.
I can't think that way. But I'm capable of learning design, not in so many words, but like just
Right.
somehow we identify as one, even though maybe we're a beginner in
Hmm.
that discipline. We believe that we can learn it and master it, but the other, we don't believe that we can. Like
Right.
that's just not me. Like I can't learn design. Uh,
Yeah.
Even I can learn development. Maybe I suck right now, but I could learn and I could get good. But I don't believe
Mhm.
that I could learn and get good at design. Sometimes, like where you
Right.
fall on that and like how true that is, I think about that a lot. Like, are we lying to
Mhm.
ourselves sometimes, or are we actually
Yeah.
very self-aware of our own
Yeah.
limitations? It's
There,
kind of
there's a
weird.
fine line between giving up early and accepting your limitations, right?
Right, right. That like it how many of us like actually could get good at it if we just ignored that like self-imposed limitation and dove in and invested ourselves? And how many
Right.
of us would actually like fulfill our self-assigned prophecy and like fail at it?
Right.
I don't know. I'm curious. I think about
Yeah.
that a lot.
Well, for now, I've chosen to kind of be focused on development because that's what pays the bills. Those are the projects that go well. Projects where I try and do design tend to not go well.
Yeah,
So
been
maybe
there.
someday when I have a little bit more latitude, I'll explore some more abstract processes and that.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's a good perspective. I think that it's important um, to not just give up, right? Just
Mhm.
because something doesn't feel natural or because we don't feel good at something doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and rise to the occasion.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, the people who are good at it, at one point they weren't.
Right.
They weren't born
Absolutely.
right there. We always have like this is like a sociology 101 sort of thing, but just we see people as they are now and not the journey
Right.
that preceded their current position. Like you're successful, you're awesome, and how come I'm not? Well, you missed the last 20 chapters. Um,
Right.
so that's something I think about. But um, anyway, you said that you focus on development. That's where you guys were really scoring, and I was there
Right.
too. That came as a surprise to us for our agency when I was running one. Um,
Hmm.
like development is where it's at. Like we looked around and we're like, how did we get here where we weren't even coders and we didn't really have an interest in development? But those are the cool projects that came our way, and they turned
Yep.
out to be fun and they turned out to be successful. Uh, and then in the end, like that's what we were as like
Right.
an elite development shop. And that's coming as a surprise to you as well. Like this,
Hmm.
didn't predict this, but this is where I am. I'm doing
Right.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
It's funny. Um, do you think there are changes coming for you and your business, like just continuing on this trajectory of just being more advanced, or like doubling down on certain
Yeah.
types of things? Where's this going for iWitness Design?
That's a good question. I've been thinking a lot about that. And right now, my on a personal level, my next thing to learn is how to build and manage a team well. Um, and I'm realizing that that's a skill. That's something that I am going to need to practice and learn a lot. I've made a few attempts at bringing people on and and building a team and doing that. And so far I've not had much success. So I'm working on identifying what parts of that process I'm approaching incorrectly, and how to do better at that. Because ultimately, as much as I love working with clients and I love solving their problems, in 10 years, that's not really what I want to be doing. Um, so, so we're still very much in the process of trying to figure out, what the next 2 to 3 years looks like. We have a couple different side projects that we're working on beyond just the client work. One of them is skillfulplugins.com, which is just kind of where we repackage the things that we build for clients and sell them. Mostly right now, it's just restrict content pro add-ons.
Awesome.
Yes. And then the second project that I've been working on for a long time is a project called Study Church. And that is kind of my first attempt at a SaaS. It's built on top of BuddyPress and Restrict Content Pro. And the idea is that the groups can come together on the platform. There's the functionality to create different studies. So it's got kind of a LMS, learning management system component to it. The point is discussion, not grades. So it's all long form answers. But the idea is, kind of going back to my church context, is that our pastor was sending out the study that the church was going through, and he'd send them out in Word documents. And I thought, hey, if we're going to be writing our own curriculum anyway, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way for us to input this on an online system and leverage a system that allowed us to be able to collaborate more effectively. So the idea is that you create the curriculum, you add it to your group, and then whenever someone in your group answers a question, they can also see the other answers from the group members on that particular question. If you've ever been to a small group or something like that, like half the time, if not more, is just spent on going over what everybody's answers were. And the problem is, half the people don't tell because they're shy or whatever. And this way, you have a lot of context going into that small group meeting. Anyways, that's the kind of thing that I would love. That's the kind of thing I would love to be doing in 5 to 10 years. So I would love to be building products that solve problems, and more on a SaaS model than anything else. I'd love to kind of manage a product, which is why I really feel like the next step for me is learning how to build a team. Because if I'm going to build something like that's going to be successful, I have to be competent at managing a team that is going to be able to help me get past 200 users or whatever I can handle on my own.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking that it's a matter of taking one of the ideas that you have now and just pouring everything into it over the course of years? Or are you more of the kind of personality where it's like, just got to find that golden idea and then I'll be good?
I think I was the golden idea guy before I built Study Church. I thought, oh, this is great. Such a good idea. We would use it. So why wouldn't everybody want to use it?
Yeah.
And I built the thing. Like, it works. You can sign up and you can use it. And I mean, it needs some polish, but it works. I think right now we have like 3 or 4 paying customers. So like I make $90 a month off of it.
Fantastic.
I know, right?
That's big.
Well, yeah, the first couple are big. But anyways, I built it and I thought, this is great. Now I just need to get some Facebook ads or something, go, sponsor a conference or 2. And then, it'll take a long time for some adoption to happen, but get it the first 100 or 200 customers in there and then start iterating. and that kind of thing. And
Yes.
yes, so it,
Yes.
it did not take me long to realize that what I had done building the thing was the easy part.
What a, yeah, what a
Yes,
letdown right there. That is a sobering realization.
it really was. I think at this point, I haven't worked on it in quite a while, but I think I'm 150 to 200 hours into it so far, um, which really isn't a lot in terms of big projects. But evenings and weekends and hobby project time, that's a lot of time to just kind of put into something.
It is.
Um, but I've talked with a lot of people about it, trying to kind of figure out what the next step needs to be. Chris Lemma is one of the guys I've talked to quite a bit about it, and he's really um, got a lot of insight into product building and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. And he's helped me to realize that I really kind of went around about it the wrong way. Um, that doesn't mean that what I've built is not the right thing, but I didn't build it for the right reasons.
Mm.
Um, and that building a product, before you build a product, you have to figure out um, what the need is, who's going to buy it, what the problem is that I'm solving. And as I've kind of moved into the marketing side of this, that's been the problem that I've had is I don't really know what specific problem I'm solving. I thought I did, but the problem that I thought I was solving doesn't seem to resonate with a lot of people.
Mm. Mhm.
So I think the tool is useful, and I think it can still be successful. But I've realized that my next step needs to be some market research and figure out, who are these people. Figure out who's doing small groups, what are the challenges they're having, um, what are their pain points, what kind of solutions would help them, and then does Study Church do that, or do I need to build something else?
Mhm. Wow. Yeah. Right on, man. Well, it sounds pretty cool. And I love these kinds of stories, like learning the real lessons that
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people, myself included, for a long time, who just appreciate hearing like these kinds of real stories of
Hmm.
just the struggle,
Yeah.
the vision that we have, and when things don't kind of work out the way that we planned, and
Yeah.
well, readjusting and adapting, all that stuff. That's real life. Uh,
Yeah.
but those are not the stories that are front and center. It's
No.
definitely we get the success stories like that.
I threw this switch and I made $100,000 the next month.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the stories that are published and shared and that we consume constantly. We're fed a diet of
Yeah.
overnight success stories.
Yep.
And I don't know, that might not be a healthy diet, I think.
I agree. Yeah. I appreciate a lot going to different word camps and that there does seem to be a conscious effort to tell the long stories. Um, and there's definitely a lot of those overnight success stories in there also. Um, but I've appreciated that perspective that this is a process, and this is a process that in a lot of ways the community comes together to be a part of. Um, that's a part of my story that I didn't really go into a lot, but everything from the going to the WordCamp Seattle meetup group is was really the turning point for me. And I know it happened fortunately for me, it happened very early in my process. But without that, without starting to make those contacts, and without those people starting to pour into me and what I was doing, like I never would have gotten off the ground.
Mhm.
And then again, when I came back to iWitness Design after working at 10up, I got to be a part of an amazing mastermind group with a few other business owners who were seasoned and had gone through the things, and they were able to help me to know that I shouldn't be charging $40 an hour, and and I should specialize in something, and just really challenging me and helping me to think through some of these things. And if it wasn't for, those people, I'd be working day and night, charging $50 an hour, probably, scrounging jobs off of Upwork or something like that.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's fine for some people, but
Yeah, and there's definitely a place for that, but surrounding yourself with community and with people that challenge you and with people who have walked that path and can help you. And maybe the right path for you is being on Upwork or Codable or something like that. But to be able to have a community that you can lean on, who can challenge you, is where success is at. It's not a book, it's not an overnight success program. It's those people who will come around you and challenge you and tell you when you're doing something wrong.
well, that sounds very, very helpful and like great advice for a lot of people. But for somebody who doesn't have that in their life, how do they go? How do they go about and get that?
Yeah. For me, it ended up with a Google search of WordPress in Seattle. I figured, I'm not in Seattle, but that was probably the closest place that was likely to have it. I didn't know about meetup.com. Now that's where I would recommend people look, is, find a meetup group where other people, where there are other people who are doing the same thing. And chances are you'll find someone who has some of the answers to your question. A quick aside, one of the other things that I've learned is that no one person has all of the right answers. There are a lot of people that are very smart and sound like they do, but it is important to have a plurality of counsel. If meetup.com is not an option, then there are tons and tons of different options. One of which is WP Elevation, which is a pretty cool tool. That's Troy Dean has headed that up, and I joined that a few months ago, and it's a really neat group of people who are very interested in coaching and helping and assisting. The other thing that I tell people who are just starting to get into this industry is to find a project to just start helping with. Probably you're not going to find, probably you're going to have to find something that doesn't pay, right? Probably you're going to have to donate some time in order to get that, that help that you need. And that's what I did. Like I had at least 3 months, I think it was more like 4, where I just went down 2 or 3 times a week and just worked with this guy for 5 or 6 hours at a time. And it wasn't paid. And I think my help was marginal at best, but it got me actually working on things, and it got me his attention, and I was able to ask questions, and that is extremely valuable. And I have a lot of friends around me and family who are thinking of doing this or some other kind of venture. And this applies to non-WordPress stuff too, is you go and you find the people who are doing things in your industry, and you do whatever you can to help them. You attach yourself to that person and be as helpful as you can and learn as much as you can. And after 3 or 4 months, if you're still not getting paid, you at least have, a resume you can start building out because you've been doing these things. So one potential for that in WordPress is contributing to core. I know there's a bunch of people in WordPress core. If you've never done that, if you don't know what a patch is, or you don't know how to code or whatever, you just get on there and say, I want to help. This is what I think I can do. And there are several people who are more than happy to sit down with you for an afternoon and just kind of walk you through the process. Alternatively, approaching someone, a company like Sandhills Development or something like that, and saying, I love what you guys are doing. Is there some way that I can help, and just donate some time to a bug fix or something like that? In some ways that was kind of one of the next things that I did, is I started working with Restrict Content Pro a lot, and started, when I'd find a bug, I'd submit a patch, and Um, and that's very helpful because then the people who are building things and doing things start knowing who you are, and they start sending work to you. And it's just all about putting yourself in a place where you are around the kind of people, you surround yourself with the kind of people that you want to be like.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful and like right on. Yeah, it sounds brilliant. So
I'm sure it's not original, but that was my story.
yeah, it echoes good advice that I've heard for sure. But
Yeah.
um, you're trying to build a good team
Yeah.
and learning a lot about that. And that's an interesting and intimidating prospect. Trying to go from a small team right now. It's you, and I mean, what does it look like, kind of right now, 2018? Where are we at?
So 2018, I've made 3 hires so far, and 2 of them have not lasted. Right now, it's just me and my admin assistant, project manager, all around ninja person, Julie, who came on originally as someone to kind of help me get my books in order, and then started helping me do project management, and now she's getting into SEO and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So she's been really amazing. And she has been able to handle all of the kind of admin overhead side of things, which has been really amazing, because then that just kind of frees up all kinds of headspace for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the next step, I'm still thinking through what the next step is, whether that means it probably means bringing on someone in like a junior dev role, so that I can start doing more planning and strategy and that kind of thing. A little bit of that depends on which direction we want to go. Do we want to really hit client work for the next 2 or 3 years? Do we want to do that and hit that hard? Do we want to make a hard pivot to SaaS products? Do we want to spend some time on skillful plugins and try and turn that into a good business before, since it's something that's already generating some revenue, do we want to do that before we move on to the next thing? And I'm not entirely sure yet. So long answer to your question, I'm not really sure. Probably it means a junior dev.
Sure. I get it. That's a hard decision. My former business partner and I used to, like, I guess, more or less argue. There's a softer word than that, but debate, maybe, like, when we're this small, where each of us are wearing a dozen hats, what should we hire for? Do we need somebody to do account management, sales, project management, or admin stuff, support, development, design? Like, which of these things? And that one person, when we're this small, is going to make a big difference. It's really fundamentally going to change our day to day. That's a tough decision. I don't even know how you make that call. And our minds changed almost every day. Like, one day we think, oh gosh, we need help in sales. Like, somebody's got to do this. And then the next day we say, no, that we definitely need a developer. No question. Somebody's got to handle this work. But it just changes everything so much when you're like, that increases the company size by 50%, with one person. Suddenly your day-to-day is drastically different. And what you are doing and where you're building your skills and focusing your time and what fulfillment you get out of your work, all of those are affected by one new addition.
Yeah. What did you guys decide?
Well, over the course of 5 years, we tried a few different things. There were a few times, like 3 people in a row who where the company size stayed the same. But the 3rd or 4th person in the company changed. So we had like a developer, and then that person left, and then we had a project manager, and that person left, and then we had a designer or developer or something like that, and then a variety of different roles filled, and each one, just the company was so different because of that 3rd or 4th person. Yeah, I don't know. I think a big factor for me later appreciate was what I wanted to be doing day to day for me to
Yeah.
get fulfillment out of my work.
Mm.
I thought a lot
Hmm.
originally about like what's going to help us grow, and later I thought more about probably too late about what I wanted to be doing with my time in order for me to look forward to
Right.
work every day,
Hmm.
and that's pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Do you have any advice or anything that you gleaned while working with a team of, what did you say, 3 or 4 people?
Yeah, when I left a year ago, there were four of us,
Okay.
and we had two developers on staff. And I was never writing code. I was writing a lot of proposals, doing a lot of
Mm.
the client facing stuff, and getting a little burned out on managing those projects and doing the consulting.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was kind of what I thought I wanted to do when I very first started. But along the
Mm.
way, discovered that I could only do it for so long. So I found myself in a position where I didn't look forward to work every day.
Ah.
And it was, we hired amazing people that I truly miss working with.
Hmm.
But a consequence of that was my day to day turned into stuff I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
I don't know, chew on that for whatever it's worth.
Before hiring somebody, make sure you know what you want to do.
Yeah. And don't give them all the fun stuff. I mean, it's your
Yes.
business. If you want to keep doing it and not get burned out, um,
Yep.
you got to enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really hard to grow a business if you don't love it. If you're not excited to do it every day, it's so
Yeah.
hard to grow it. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. Fun. Okay, so just a couple wrap up questions here while I've got you.
Yeah.
Um, we met at a WordCamp. You've been to a number of events. What is on your calendar for the rest of this year where somebody might bump into you?
Great question. I have not made out my calendar yet for this year. I always go to WordCamp Seattle. Um, I try to go down to WordCamp Portland whenever it's on. I was down at Sacramento last year and really enjoyed that a lot. So I could
Mhm.
definitely see going to that one again. I normally go to WordCamp Miami, but that happened last weekend, so obviously I missed that.
Right, right. I heard great things
Um,
about it. Man.
yeah, sounded good. Um, if Pressnomics is around again, I'd probably do that one. Um,
They're hinting.
just
They're hinting at it.
yes, that's right. I did see that. That was really enjoyable.
Mhm.
In January, I went to Beach Press, which was a ton of fun.
Right, right. One, no, two of
Yes.
my colleagues were there and spoke highly of it.
Yeah, so I am very interested if Chris Lemma does Cabo Press again, I'm very interested in considering that. Um, I've got a worship conference that I'm going into, the Getty Worship Conference in September, so I'll be doing
Wow.
that. I may start doing more of those if we decide to hit Study Church hard this year. I'll probably start doing more of those kind of conferences and less of WordPress type conferences.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
As
that's
much fun
interesting.
as WordPress conferences are.
They're great. They're great. But there are other things out there. There's so many WordPress events now, and they're so
Yeah.
fun that it's very easy to fill your schedule
Yeah.
with them.
I'm trying to be conscious about doing other kinds of events this year also.
Oh, yeah. It's all too easy for someone like myself in the Great Lakes area. There's a high density of WordCamps, and
Yes.
I could just be going to one every single month, uh, and
Yeah.
just casually driving to them. They're not even far.
Right.
Uh, anyway, do you have great suggestions for guests that I should have on the show in the future?
Ooh. Um, have you had on Justin Sainton?
Nope. Good idea. Yeah.
Justin's great.
Hmm.
Let me think. Uh, how about Curtis McHale?
Oh, I would love to have Curtis on the show.
Yeah,
We've never had the
Curtis is
pleasure of
awesome
meeting
too.
in person.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, those are probably my two top recommendations.
Those are excellent recommendations. Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, it's about time to wrap up here, and this would be an opportunity for you to share how people can contact you. And if you have any parting thoughts, anything worth sharing that we didn't get to touch on, go ahead and share away.
Oh, sure. Twitter is probably the best way to get a hold of me, unless you want to do a project, at which point you can reach us on our website, which is iWitnessDesign.com. Besides that, parting thoughts. I think just what we were talking about earlier. You know, if you're not where you want to be, as in your business, in your life, start surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to be, and that's really the first step in the process.
I love that advice. That's awesome, Tanner. Well, that's a good note to end on. Let's wrap up this discussion. I'm going to head out to dinner with my family and let you wrap up your
Awesome.
Work day. You're a few hours behind me, so you've still got a little more to slug out.
Oh yes, I've still got some time. I actually get a have a masseuse coming at 3:30, so really
Oh
looking
my
forward to
gosh. Wow. Yeah. That's a great way to end a Monday.
that. I know, right? Yeah, I guess that would be my second piece of advice. Um, Schedule massages, lots of them infrequently.
Wow. All right. Yeah. There's your
Just like
bonus advice. No extra
bonus
charge.
advice. That's
Yeah.
right.
All right, Tanner. Thanks for coming on
Cool.
the show.
Hey, it's been a pleasure, Kyle. Really had a good time.
Oh, man.